Chicago for the NBA All-Star Weekend.
LeBron James, who shoots the three off the catch and hits.
It's Kumbo goes up, finished it.
Thank you so much to all across the world that put us in the All-Star game here in Chicago.
If you don't know by now, I'm talking about Shot Town.
Simmons just slams it.
Shoots for three in the horn.
Bang, got it.
James Harden.
The floater, true for Kemba Walker. Ingram, the dagger.
Wing left three.
Bottom, Nikola Jokic.
I think it's going to be amazing. Looking forward to being in Chicago.
Let's play some basketball. That might be the quote of the morning. We are live, hanging out in Chicago with everybody behind us. Harry Carey's Navy Pier. I've had an inordinate amount of French toast, and we're just getting rolling. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Jason Fitz in for Trey with Mike Golic Jr. And it is true, I've had a substantial amount of powdered sugar, so I have no idea where this morning's
It's
going
the
to go.
simple things in life to Jason. Jason's not been hosting a show on the road with us. When we go on the road, where we go, the people are so nice in giving us some eggs and some either pancakes or French toast. So it's always a lovely breakfast. And Jason had no idea about that. He was like a kid, walking into Juilliard for the first day, with his violin, and all of a sudden there was French toast in front of him.
It's not the breakfast, though. It's the sugar with you.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably fair.
The first show I ever did with Jason Fitz, we walk out to the set, and I had met the guy like a week earlier for the first time, and he walks out onto set with two tall boy energy drinks with 2 5-hour energies on top of them.
Oh.
And ingested them all in the next 10 minutes. So I have seen you do a show on the verge of a heart attack. This French toast isn't going to put a dent in your hide.
Look, that's just called getting the right level of energy. Now I get that naturally because it's Valentine's Day, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Valentine's Day shirt. I'm proud of this one. I choose you with the
a Tyrannosaurus Rex holding a heart. Yeah,
so
that
was my gift to you guys. What'd you guys get me?
We got you absolutely nothing. We got you on the road with us in front of a great crowd. Appreciate everybody showing up this early here.
They're not even drunk yet.
They don't start serving for another 2 hours. And then we'll really find out about the crowd. But really nice group here in All-Star Weekend basketball in Chicago. Tough to beat this.
I'm going to have to ask you later what the rules are because, I'm used to touring in music. Maybe if you have a drink, it's okay.
Yeah, get hammered. It's all right.
All right.
Yeah,
Woo!
no
All right, we're going to have a good
Kathy
Valentine's morning.
Lee Hoden.
Oh, my God, we're just going to start bringing it out. So we've got a lot of basketball we're going to get to over the course of the next several hours. Some great guests. We're going to get everything you need to know for the All-Star game. Obviously, that's why we're in Chicago, the festivities. But before we get to any of that, there was some significant news last night as we come into this morning, and we've had a lot of conversation about Myles Garrett, the fact that Myles Garrett has been reinstated by the NFL. We now know it was a 6-game suspension. We talked a lot about that yesterday. Well, the difference is now we've heard from Myles Garrett. We were talking about it yesterday. Now Myles Garrett has spoken. You can check it out on ESPN.com. There's some portions of it, and it's Mina Kimes had the opportunity to sit down with Myles and specifically talk about sort of what happened and his views on what happened. And I think it's important in his voice to tell you a little bit here because she asked him specifically what Rudolph did, what he said that got Garrett to the breaking point that he was at. Check this out.
He called me the N-word. He called me a stupid N-word. I don't say the N-word, whether it's with A, ER. To me personally, just shouldn't be said. And whether it's by family, friends, anyone. And I don't want to use it because I don't want to find that appropriate around me for anyone to use. So when he said it, it kind of sparked something, but I still tried to let it go and still walk away. Once he came back, it kind of reignited the situation.
Now, it is important to say that the league investigated this. This is the first time we've heard the claim. The league investigated it and didn't come back with any findings that supported that. And I want to get to that quickly, too, because Mina, being as great as she is, asked him about the fact that there was no evidence from the NFL, and this is his response to that.
Most quarterbacks wear mics in their helmets. He somehow lost his helmet and had to get another one without a mic. There were guys who were mic'd up near me, near us during that time who didn't hear anything. And from what I've heard, there have been audio during that game that could have heard something or could not have heard something, but they don't want to say. So something was said. I know something was said. Now, whether the NFL wants to acknowledge it, that's up to them. But I don't want to make it a racial thing, honestly. It's over with for me, and I'm pretty sure it's over with for Mason. So we just want to move past that and keep on playing football.
From that side of it, they reached out to the Steelers, and the Steelers basically said, we said what we said. You know, that's not changing. Mason Rudolph said he didn't say that. And again, during that interview, Myles Garrett said, Mason said it too. Remember, it was a short pass. They were throwing the ball, and the game was basically over. Myles was even saying, I didn't even know why I was on the field at that point. But he said, I didn't want to be on the field. And when he was tackling Mason Rudolph, he said, that's when Mason said it. So whenever you're watching the video and you see him taking him to the ground, that is allegedly when he said, Myles Garrett said what Mason said to him. The only two players closest were David DeCastro and Matt Filers. I think it's Filers. Yeah. The two offensive linemen. When he talked about people being mic'd up, normally the center is mic'd up, and that would be Pouncey. But he wasn't as close on that play there as well. As far as the helmet, I mean, let's not get crazy and make it sound like there's some conspiracy theory that when there was, well, he suddenly didn't have the helmet that had the transmitter and had a different helmet. I mean, if he had to get a different helmet, it was, before that. So I don't think we're ever going to get an answer to this. I think this is going to be a he said. Myles said he said it. Mason said he didn't. Now, really, what Myles said at the end there, if it in fact is true, would be a horrible thing if he did say it, and it is on audio somewhere, and we're never hearing that audio, or somebody is suppressing that audio.
Well, and that's kind of the conversation that we ended up having towards the end during this the first time when we were dealing with it in November was, if the league were withholding something like that, who are they doing it to benefit in this situation, right? Like, what would be on there? And clearly, the version that Myles is presenting here would say the league is trying to make sure that one of their quarterbacks wasn't caught on tape saying the N-word, which seems like something that, from the league standpoint, yeah, that would be a terrible look for them overall, but it would be even worse to all of a sudden be on the side of a cover-up in this, which is that makes it the difficult part. Although after the last day of PR that we've had from professional organizations, maybe I should stop overestimating the skills of people in positions of power there.
Fair enough. Of course, in the morning, believe me, I've still got a lot of my heart to rip about the Astros. But when you talk about conspiracy theories with the league, let's also look at the fact that this, to me, is one of the worst things the NFL's had to deal with from an optics. We always talk about how powerful video is. This video was daunting, and it's one of their biggest stars at the time, had 10 sacks on a team that has a lot of attention. If they could have come out with something that would have justified to many people why the action happened, that actually is a benefit. If the league had audio to me, releasing the audio and saying, hey, whoa, before you demonize Myles Garrett, let's understand context, I think that would have actually helped the league. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around the league, specifically from a conspiracy theory standpoint, burying something that protects a no-name quarterback that probably won't even be in the NFL in 2 years, and instead protecting and instead allowing a star that they need to take the fall. That doesn't, from a logic standpoint, that I can't make that make sense.
No, that does seem to make the most sense to me, and worth noting in a day where we're going to skewer phony apologies and people talking about certain situations. The one thing Myles Garrett did make very clear was that action that he says happened on the field and what he says he was called did not, in his mind or anyone else's, justify what happened. And he drew a pretty clear line in the sand on that one, which, I don't know, maybe it was the backdrop of everything we saw with the Astros yesterday. I heard that and went, oh, yeah, well, that's how you handle something like this. You look at that and say, there is no excuse for what I did. I feel terribly about that portion of things. That's not who I am. All of these things that can exist, and Myles Garrett can still be called what he says he's been called.
Yeah, he definitely wanted to make sure of that's why he said he didn't bring it up, because he said he didn't want to make that seem like the reason that he swung the helmet, because he did say, took the rap for that, said there's no justification.
Well, because remember, like he said, you're saying it was said to him after that tackle right there.
Right.
And his point was a lot of what the rest of us said, which is Mason Rudolph went back into the fray after one initial round of this, and Myles said, once that happened, I kind of saw red.
Right. So, again, I don't know, outside of if Mason Rudolph actually did say it and it's on tape, and it's not released and it gets released, I don't see there being any end to this outside of Myles saying he said it, Mason saying he did it, and nobody around there, no teammate, and the two closest, again, were offensive linemen. and nobody has said anything that they heard Mason Rudolph say anything like that.
I'm not sure what the end game is, but I also think to that point there might be a next step that has to be taken. We'll tell you what it is coming up. Golic and Wingo presented by Progressive Insurance. At Progressive, they're making things even easier. They'll help you bundle your home and car insurance together so you can save on both. Learn more at Progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Coming up, I think there is a next step that's going to have to happen, and it involves the league and a player. We'll get to all of that after this.
Enjoy the game of golf even more with a custom set of PXG clubs. Go to pxg.com to configure your clubs and buy. For personal recommendations at your convenience, call 844-PLAY-PXG to speak to a PXG fitting expert. Or for the full PXG fitting experience, schedule an in-person appointment with a local PXG master fitter. Call or visit our website to book now. PXG. Nobody makes golf clubs the way we do, period. Back after this on Golic and Wingo.
Stream your favorite sports, stories, and series with ESPN.
141-133 in double overtime. Kemba Walker calling Tatum the best player on the court, added that Tatum was incredible in the win. The Clippers, though, again, we just saw this with Dame Lillard for Portland. Clippers played most of the game without Paul George, who left in the second quarter with a hamstring strain. It's the same injury that cost him 10 games in January, so we'll see where that goes. All right, in the final game, before the break, Zion Williamson, well, he continues to do it, and all of a sudden maybe he's making that Rookie of the Year race a little closer. Ja Morant was seen to have that thing locked up. Zion says, wait a minute on that. Set a new career high with 32 points. But the Pelicans did lose to the Thunder 123 to 118. Thunder withstood another incredible performance by Zion. Williamson now has back-to-back 30-point games, has scored at least 20 points in 8 of his 10 games. He's expected to play in the All-Star Rising Stars Challenge tonight at 9 Eastern. Finally, Tiger Woods shoots a 2-under 69 at Rivera Country Club, and it's 5 shots behind the leader, Matt Kuchar, in the Genesis Invitational. Woods opened with an eagle putt on the par 5 opening hole, which measured 24 feet, 8 inches. Both of Kobe Bryant's numbers. On the 8th hole, which has a Kobe number 8 flag in Lakers color this week at Riviera, he paid tribute to Bryant by doing a one-handed basketball-like shot with his ball back to his caddy after making the birdie. And again, a trending brought to you by Redbox. Don't miss award-nominated Ford versus Ferrari starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale. Rent it now at Redbox for under $2 a night.
Golic and Wingo live today from Chicago, getting you guys ready for the NBA All-Star Game, brought to you by Progressive Insurance.
It is Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN2.
The point doesn't work for you, Jason.
The point doesn't work. You're right.
The point doesn't work for you.
Let's try this across the board.
No,
wait. Okay, look, see, a point?
No.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You point? Go ahead.
When I point, you know what? Know your place.
Nah, that's fair. That is fair. I know the place right now is Harry Carey's at Navy Pier down in Chicago. We are live. We will be here all morning. Come hang out with us as we get you caught up on everything you need to know. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN2. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests join us on the show. Pennzoil Performance Line. We've been having a conversation about the breaking story last night. Myles Garrett had a sit-down with Mina Kimes and addressed sort of why he did what he did, what led him to do what he did. He did say in his sit-down last night that Mason Rudolph used the racial slur that he had accused Mason Rudolph of using before during the play, and that's what set him off. He also said that he understands that the league says they have no evidence, but it seems like he's questioning that a little bit. But importantly, he was also asked by Mina why he wished it didn't even get out that Rudolph used a slur.
Because I didn't want to try to use it as justification for my actions, because there's nothing to justify. Like, there's nothing that I can say or do to justify what I did on that day. I'm not saying there's nothing to justify it and I didn't do anything wrong. And I know what know what happened. I know what I heard. And people say things, when they're heated or they're full of emotion, and I leave it on the field. He said it, but that was 3 months ago, 4 months ago now. I'll leave that behind.
You know, if you listen to the whole thing, Myles Garrett kind of builds up to it by saying, again, he didn't even want to be on the field at that point. There was a few seconds to go. They were still passing the ball, so he was frustrated by that already. And then as he was taking Mason Rudolph down, that's when he said Mason said it, and that just kind of sparked him, as he continues to say. no justification for it. Again, if it was said, we still don't know on either side of this. But the thing about it is, if everybody remembers, you got to know Myles Garrett before the draft. He is not your typical, football, workout all the time guy. I mean, he has got some depth to him as well. So that's why a lot of people now he has been fined some money for some late hits or some landing on the quarterback. So the way they protect the quarterbacks nowadays. And quite honestly, you get fined for a lot less than you should, and he's gotten fined. But this, and that's what everybody says, was so out of character for him, what had to set him off, and this is what he said happened.
Here's what's difficult about it, and you're right. Junior mentioned earlier, sometimes you're looking at an apology. You're looking for some level of, hey, I'm sorry, I want forgiveness, I want to move forward. And we're also, and this is what, the Astros didn't do, we're actually looking for some reasoning why. And so he's given us reasoning why. The problem is, as part of his, not the problem, but the recourse of that is he in that process also says, hey, we're all moving forward. I don't know that Mason Rudolph can just move forward from this, though. Like, as much as his people are like, hey, we're not going to make a statement, you've now again been accused of using a racial slur that caused this entire issue. And the NFL has now been at least passive-aggressively accused of having audio that they may or may not have, that they may or may not be burying because they may or may not want to protect a racial slur. Like, I don't see how it's possible for this now to just, compartmentalize and move forward, because in the process of apology, you've made some pretty damning statements against a player and a league, and that to me is difficult to just presume that we move forward from.
Well, I mean, we did it before already. Like we did that before, and the added benefit for the league and for everyone else in this is that if all things go according to plan, we're not going to see Mason Rudolph this year. Like, he will not be on the field this year. Ben Roethlisberger, by all accounts, will be back healthy. There's a lot of optimism around that. So this isn't a guy you have to get used to seeing, where it's going to be, how do we address this on every broadcast with Mason Rudolph if this gets brought up? How do we deal with this when Mason Rudolph is in front of the media? Those instances become fewer and further between because you go back to being the backup. And quite frankly, after some of the on-field performance from Mason Rudolph, become the backup if you're lucky. You're going to have to go out and likely earn that again this year.
Yeah, he's going to be out of sight, out of mind. So I definitely think that makes this whole situation take a step back a little bit, and I don't think anything is going to change outside of if he actually said it and there was actual tape of it. Then the only way we're ever going to know that is if that somehow the tape becomes public, because every player has spoken about this, said nothing was said, they didn't hear anything. Mason said he didn't say anything. So this is going to continue to be a he said.
Well, I guess, and because you're right about everything you just said, the hard part is that we are so skeptical about every investigation into anything in general. And so you're already skeptical, not you, but society already
Oh, absolutely.
skeptical. And then what you have is you have a player that was reinstated, and suddenly one eyebrow raises, and now that player that was reinstated comes out and says, well, they may or may not have audio that I'm sure exists where I was called a racial slur. I think intended or not, it would be hard for me to imagine that the NFL doesn't have to answer questions about this at some point, whether it's when Goodell speaks at the draft or whether it's at the scouting combine. Like, I feel like the next time we hear from Roger Goodell, he's going to be answering these questions.
Do we have a pro league that gets the benefit of the doubt?
No.
We don't.
Do we have a pro league that deserves benefit?
And a lot, like they've done that to themselves a lot, and they don't get the benefit of the doubt.
I would say before everything that happened this summer when they were over in China, the NBA is about as close as we had.
I agree. And then that kind of went.
As far as a league and a commissioner who consistently and understandably because of the burden of past proof got the benefit of the doubt on a lot of things. That certainly changed it, but they're about the only ones. Everyone else, you're right, deals with a healthy amount of skepticism. But again, for Roger Goodell and company, because the truth is something that two people know in this instance, for Roger Goodell and everyone else dealing with that, you've dealt with it before. Like, you know the blueprint of, and you did that during the season. Now you're talking about an off season where there's so much time before you get to the product that's most important to you.
That's Straight Talk Wireless, everything for less, only at Walmart. Don't forget, catch the full interview tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. I can't stress this enough. It's easy to take these little sound bites and presume that's everything that happened here. There's a full interview outside the lines on ESPN. Mina Kimes, and we'll have Mina Kimes will have more on this Monday on the ESPN Daily Podcast. So be sure to go check out the whole thing, 9 a.m. Eastern on Outside the Lines on ESPN. Coming up, speaking of leagues that don't get benefit of the doubt.
Or guys that prove that even if you have a lot of money, you don't say smart things at all.
I mean, baseball's biggest villain, the team that is actually, it might be the team that's actually beating the Yankees. I can't say enough awful things about what the Astros did, but I'm going to try after this.
All right, when it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need to get your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions based on your job requirements, and zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Your time is precious. Let Indeed help you get to your short list of qualified candidates and discover why more than 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. That's Indeed.com/hire. Back after this on Golic and Wingo.